Hello and welcome to Horrorific Tales. In this show we celebrate the creations of independent authors and aspiring writers. Please like and subscribe and share these episodes so we can help our talented friends get as much exposure as possible. We'd also appreciate if you could support our artists by following them on their individual platforms and by purchasing their works. Details on how to do this are in the episode description. In this horrific tale, a young man struggles to balance his family business duties with his other macabre interests. Join us now as we present Conversations with Dead Serial Killers by Ashley Lister. The thing that few people appreciated about Ed Gein was his skill as a seamstress. Clive had sat through every episode of The Great British Sewing Bee, and, whilst the finalists on that show invariably produced some nice-looking creations in the last episode of each series, and sometimes that was when they were working with awkward fabrics such as organza, pleated lace or chiffon. None of them had yet been challenged with creating something original from human skin. To Clive's mind it was an injustice that everyone looked at Ed Gein's work. The belt made from nipples, the lampshade made from Mary Hogan's face, and the chairs fully upholstered in human skin. And all they saw was the grand chignal horror that came from murder, the desecration of graves, and the violation of corpses. No one appreciated the man for his craftsmanship and finesse with a needle and thread. Clive sat back at his desk, surveying the screen that held his notes on Gein and wondering how close his latest book was to being ready for publication. There were hundreds of biographies covering Gein, describing him as the Plainfield Butcher, the Plainfield Ghoul, and the grandfather of gore, and explaining how he was a role model for fictional monsters such as Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Norman Bates in Robert Bloch's Psycho, and even Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. Clive's approach to the biography had been different. Rather than go on about the lawlessness and illegality of Gein's actions, with the usual ghoulish voyeurism concerning murder, grave robbing, and skin removal, Clive wanted to celebrate the Ed Gein that the history books had overlooked. Gein was a hard-working labourer. Gein was a loving son who aspired to be just like his mother. And Gein was a diligent researcher who studied subjects as diverse as the Nazis, cannibalism, and, if his well-thumbed copy of Grey's Anatomy was any indicator, human biology. Not that Gein was the only subject of the biographies he had written. Clive had published one volume on the comforting bedside manner of Dr. Harold Shipman, foregrounding the underreported benevolent side of the world's most prolific serial killer. He had also written about the forbidden romance between Ian Brady and Mara Hindley, and also wanted to write about the passion that kept Fred and Rose West together. Importantly, and it was a consistent theme throughout all of the books he was writing, Clive wanted to talk about the fact that some of these notorious killers had managed to grow up to appear like unassuming and normal adults, despite the trauma of abusive childhoods. He knew they'd grown up to appear unassuming and normal because neighbours, witnesses and others involved in testifying against these people always described them as being unassuming and normal. He supposed the project struck a personal chord for him because, if not for fate and circumstances, he figured he too could have been another name on that long list of serial killers who had been captured and punished by the society he didn't understand. He had been brought up by abusive parents, he had suffered a minor head trauma before reaching puberty, and he had been a bedwetter until his mid-teens. He enjoyed lighting small fires and putting down rat traps, and these were all indicators on some liberal scale that suggested he would have had the propensity for being a serial killer. Crucially, he was a loner who enjoyed pornography and horror films, and, whilst that described every kid he'd gone to school with and every adult he'd met since, he knew this was also used as a standard yardstick for measuring the potentiality of serial killers. His phone rang. The caller ID told him it was his brother, Derek. Clive answered the phone before it had rung for the third time.
"Where are you?"
Derek asked. "I'm working on my writing," Clive said simply. "I was writing about Ed Gein. Do you know he had a lovely smile?"
"Is Gein the one who's making a bodysuit out of human flesh so he could look like his mother?"
"Don't say it like that. You make it sound weird," Derek sighed.
"There's a Conversations with Dead Friends tonight here at the Playhouse,"
he explained. He sounded as though he was speaking with forced patience.
"You promised me you'd be here to assist with the hot readings and the after-show sales."
"I can help with the hot readings from here," Clive assured Derek. He sat in front of 3 flat-screen monitors. One of them showed the latest draft from his Gein manuscript. The other 2 respectively showed some bondage porn he'd been perusing on the login page for the Thrill Kill website. "I can do the hot reading better from here," he insisted.
"Are you leaving me to do this show on my own?"
Derek sounded incredulous. "No," Clive said confidently. "I'll be in your ear throughout the evening. And I'll be reading the contents from all the prayer messages you've had sent to you."
"You're not fanning around on that Thrill Kills website, are you?"
Derek asked suddenly. Clive glanced uneasily at the Thrill Kill login page and scowled at the idea that his brother could sometimes act as though he was genuinely psychic. "You told me to stop visiting that site," Clive reminded Derek. "Do you really think I'm going to disobey one of your explicit instructions?"
"You already read too much about serial killers,"
Derek complained.
You read about them constantly, and then you read about them. And when you're out reading or writing about them, you're talking about them or researching them. I don't want you playing those stupid internet games that glorify those crazy bastards.
We've had this conversation several times, Clive remembered. Is there really any purpose in rehashing your thoughts again, now that I've said that I'll do as you asked? Derek was silent a moment before saying,
This wasn't how we had agreed to work. Conversations with dead friends, was it? You promised me you'd be with me at the theatre.
I think this way is better, Clive said earnestly. There's no one going to see your brother turning up at the theatre and then wonder why he's disappeared whilst you perform. No one's going to find me lurking backstage and whispering information into your earpiece. This is the perfect cover for conversations with dead friends, as well as for the TV idea I gave you yesterday.
The TV idea?
Derek repeated. There was a moment's silence, and Clive knew his brother was struggling to remember what they had discussed.
Conversations with dead serial killers?
Derek said eventually.
Is that the TV idea you mean?
The title needs a little polish, Clive allowed. Have you thought any more about it?
Not yet,
Derek admitted.
I've been busy doing all the solitary preparation for the one-man show. I expected some help from my idiot brother, but once again he's let me down, so I've not had time to think about anything else.
Perhaps you'll have time tonight after the show, Clive suggested, ignoring the acid tone in the passive-aggressive comment. Call me 10 minutes before you're going in front of the audience, and we'll keep the phone lines open for the night. After severing the connection, Clive sat back in his chair and switched on the table lamp next to his desk. It was a lamp he'd made himself with a shade constructed from the face of one of his first victims, Samantha White. Samantha's features turned pale as the bulb cast a pinky beige light through her stretched cheeks and stretched eyelids. Because her lips had been sealed with clumsy blanket stitches, it looked as if she'd been caught in the final act of trying to give her voice to a dying scream. Clive grinned at her, and typed his details into the login screen of the Thrillkill website.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed our latest horrific tale. If you want to keep up to date with the future episodes, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our social media pages. You can also give the channel support by visiting our merchandise store and picking up some of our items. Please also take a moment to support our contributing artists who very kindly lend their talents to the show. Check out the links in the description on how you can do this. Well, that just leaves me to say, until next time my friends, keep it creepy, keep it horrorific.